G'day guys and welcome to ReDriven. Now look, I'm a bit nervous and apprehensive about today's review video because while the Discovery 4 is widely regarded as one of the best four-wheel drives of all time, Land Rover as a brand have a horrendous reputation when it comes to reliability. When these things are new with a full factory warranty, they're close to perfection. They are really that good. But these aren't new anymore, so are they still worthy of their acclaim? Is there any truth to the whole Land Rover being crap reputation? What actually goes wrong with them? What do they cost to own and maintain? And most importantly, should you buy one? Let's find out. Now, before we get deep into the Discovery, can you please do us a favor and hit those like, subscribe and bell icon buttons? And hey, why not whip over to the socials and follow us over there after the video? Now in this video, we will be focusing on the Australian derivatives of the 2009 to 2016 Land Rover Discovery 4. But if you're not from Australia, don't freak out because everything we're going to be going over should relate to Discoveries in your local market. Speaking of Australia, that's where we are right now, and we like to abbreviate everything. So for the rest of the video, this is no longer a Discovery 4, it's simply the Disco. This, the fourth generation Disco, was fundamentally an aesthetic update and evolution of the Disco 3, retaining the 3's integrated body frame structure and incredible off-road ability. But it improved the levels of safety, luxury, refinement, on-road manners and overall technology. Now, this generation Disco received 3 updates during its life cycle, and it was available in a host of different variants and trim levels with different drivetrains and power plants. And look, we'd love to go over every graphic detail in this video, but that would just take hours. But we have gathered all that information and we've put it in our handy ReDriven cheat sheets. Now, cheat sheets are invaluable as they provide a full breakdown of the car's model range, its common problems, what you need to look out for before handing over your hard-earned cash, how much of that cash you should be handing over, and so much more. Check it out at redriven.com or in the link below. So does it look good? How's the exterior? Personally, I love the way these look, especially with the aftermarket off-roading accessories that this owner has fitted. From a design aspect, I think this is pretty much spot on and perfect. Like, it's super tough yet still really classy, and I was like, it's a big unit of a thing, but not in like a I'm compensating sort of way. The whole blocky front end and extended wheel arches doesn't do a whole lot for aerodynamics, but this thing's just going to beat the atmosphere into a submission anyway, probably while apologising in a classy English accent the whole time. But there are some issues and some things to watch out for. Now, the Disco 4 was a huge improvement over the Disco 3 in terms of gremlins, but these things, the power windows, the central locking and the rear wiper, they have a habit of seizing up and failing. Now, make sure you get underneath it and check for any signs of abuse. Look for any paint that's missing, look for any gouges out of the under tray, check all the suspension arms. Anything that looks like it's been heavily used off-road or abused can spell disaster. Especially look for rust. If you find a rusty one of these, just steer clear of it. Now look, obviously these are designed to be used off-road, but if they have been abused off-road and not cleaned properly, dirt and crap can build up, especially in the rear brakes, and it can stuff up the actuator that controls the rear electronic parking brake. If that fails, it costs a fortune to repair. Also, check the tyres for any wear at the edges. If they are worn on the edges, it's a good sign that there's some issues with the suspension control arms and bushes. Okay, this is an important one. These things are becoming renowned for the air compressors or the air suspension system to have issues and sometimes fail. So when you're checking them out, make sure that it goes up and down evenly and doesn't tip to one side or the other. If it does that, it's going to be a bloody expensive repair bill to fix the air compressor and the suspension. How's the interior? Well, look, from a design aspect, it's bloody lovely in here. It's muscular and purposeful, yet still classy and sophisticated. If Henry Cavill was an interior, it'd be this. As far as wear and tear goes, excellent. Like, all the leather is wearing really well, even on all the touch points. Steering wheel, okay, it's getting a little bit shiny, but this has got a lot of Ks on it. It's had a pretty tough life. But wear and tear, all the plastics, all the buttons, everything feels really nice. Well done. What the fuck is that? Quick note, if this leather is left untreated, especially in the Australian climate, it can go pear-shaped really quickly. So if you are getting one, make sure it has nice, soft, supple leather. The seating position and the seats are just phenomenal. Like, they're so comfy. It's like lounge chair comfortable, but I still feel in control. This feels bloody great. One design feature that I absolutely love is the rotary gear selector that just rises up out of the center console. It's stolen directly out of the Jaguar catalog, but I love that. There's a couple of little issues as far as wear and tear goes. There's a bit of movement to that center console. We'll get to that in the driving impressions in a sec, but it's the only kind of disappointing thing. Okay, the back seat. Now I'm 9.134% shorter than LeBron James, and this is in my sitting position, and there's heaps of space. Loads of knee room, heaps of foot room, heaps of headroom, and because the glass house is so large, it just feels airy and spacious back here. Excellent. As far as wear and tear goes, again, like the front, absolutely fantastic. The leather's wearing really well, all the squidgy touch points are nice. This thing gets a hell of a workout. You'd never tell. It feels great back here. Okay, space in the third row isn't that great. This is fundamentally for kids really, because my knees are smashed hard up against the back of the seat. But because, again, the glass house is so large, it still feels kind of airy and nice back here. Kids would have a ball, adults, maybe 7 to 8 minutes. That's it. How's the tech? Well, the Disco was drenched in technology when it was new, but new was quite some time ago, so the tech is getting a bit old. But anyway, here's a voiceover of me giving you an overview of what this thing has. Standard, the Disco 4 includes cruise control, a reversing camera, keyless entry, an 8-speaker sound system, Bluetooth connectivity, dual zone climate control, power adjustable driver's seat, rear parking sensors, automatic headlights with washers, front fog lights, rain sensing wipers, and loads more. Also, there was a seemingly endless array of optional extras for these things, all of which are listed in our ReDriven cheat sheets. But just because it's got a bunch of stuff, it's not necessarily good news. First of all, as I mentioned, the tech is getting quite old, so don't expect any Apple CarPlay or Android Auto or anything like that. But even navigating the infotainment system and all the tech, it's pretty bloody clunky and hard to get your head around. Also, in terms of problems, the air conditioning sensors and the sensors that control the air suspension are prone to failure. And also, the fuel gauge can read incorrectly, which requires a new fuel sensor and some other recalibration of the computer, and that will cost a fortune to repair. Also, don't lose the keys, because these things cost a bomb to replace. Is it practical? Well, in the back, yes, there is heaps of space back here. Plus, it's got this very cool flip-down tailgate. And with the seats folded flat, it's almost got like van levels of space in here. Practicality in the third row actually isn't too bad for a third row. You've got your own cup holder and a little storage box here. Pretty good. And practicality in the second row is pretty good. You've got map pockets on both seats. You've got a spot for a mobile phone just here, perfectly sized. You've got air vents in the back, plus auxiliary and 12 volt. And excellent sized door bins. And the practicality up front is pretty good. There's storage up here. There's storage in the glove box here. There's kind of a spot for your phone here. It's a bit of a weird angle. It's not really meant for a phone, but it'll do. There's 2 cup holders here. There's a really good size bucket in here with a little tray, and awesome sized door bins. So what goes wrong with them? Well, as I mentioned earlier, Land Rover have a pretty horrific reputation when it comes to reliability, but I can't comment on that because I'm not a mechanic, but Jim is.
Here's a fun fact. Statistically, Land Rover, for the last 10 years, is the most unreliable car brand. In particular, the Disco 4 is riddled with problems. There are so many issues, there's no way I can remember all of them, so I'm just going to read a few from the ones we put in the cheat sheets. Oil leaks and electrical gremlins, fuel leaks, gearbox problems, you've got airbag problems, and the handbrake problem that spontaneously locks on and locks off, fragile cooling system, the list goes on. It's all there in the cheat sheets, check it out.
Is it safe? Well, here's another voiceover of me telling you what it has. Cheers, mate. Okay, the Disco 4 comes equipped with electronic brake force distribution, all-terrain anti-lock braking system, electronic traction control, dynamic stability control, electronic differential control, emergency brake assist, enhanced understeer control, hydraulic rear brake boost, rollover stability control, trailer stability assist, and hill descent control with gradient release control. Jesus, bloody hell. Plus, it has a balloon shop worth of airbags and a 5-star ANCAP safety rating. But while it might miss out on some of the latest safety tech that we're expecting in modern cars, yeah, it's really safe. So what's it like to drive? Well, look, first up, this command driving position is fantastic. The vision out of it is superb, and especially with this enormous glass house, excellent vision. Even judging the extremities is actually really easy because the bonnet is quite flat, doesn't fade away. Knowing where the front area of the car is an absolute breeze. Although, it's still pretty obvious this is a big lug of a thing. It doesn't hide its size and weight really well. It's just easier to maneuver into tight spots. Even the blind spot isn't too bad. Like there's a bit of a C-pillar blind spot there, but it's not horrendous. And vision out the back is pretty good. Like the headrests on the rear seat kind of block a little bit out, but again, that window's huge, so seeing back there, simple. Now, one thing that the Disco does arguably better than any other car is blend phenomenal on-road dynamics with genuinely capable off-roading characteristics. And a lot of that's down to the Disco's air suspension. And the ride and handling in this thing is just superb. Now, as far as off-road ability goes, look, the terrain response system in this is getting a little bit old, but look, trust us, this thing will still go pretty much anywhere you point it. And look, we'd love nothing more than to take this thing into the wilderness and show you what they can really do, but we've borrowed this, we don't own it, so that's not going to happen. And let's be honest, the most off-roading most of these things do is generally driving on the grass out the front of whatever private school the kids go to. The steering is excellent. Like it's really, really light, but it's still got a great level of communication coming through it. And the turning circle, for such a big rig of a thing, is just phenomenal. Now, as far as the power plant goes, this is a TD V6, which is the least powerful of the engines on offer. But even though it's the least powerful, like it still gets up and goes. It's bloody good, heaps of torque. Look, the SD V6, the more powerful engine, it definitely feels more energetic, and this thing is a little sluggish off the line, but once you're up and running, that delicious amount of torque, it still squishes you into the seat really, really nicely. So how is it as far as noises and rattles and creaks go? Okay, there's a bit of wind noise because, you know, it's about as aerodynamic as an apartment block, so you get some wind noise off the windscreen and off the big mirrors. And as far as rattles and creaks go, even on rough roads, it's pretty good. There's a bit of noise from this center console, but you know, this thing's had a hell of a workout. It's a few years old. That's to be expected. But there are some bigger issues. On this particular example, the brakes feel very squidgy. Like they don't give you a whole lot of confidence, and I'm not really sure when the pedal travel is going to run out or when I'm actually going to stop. Now, if you are test driving one of these, it's really important to get it up to full power, because people that are a bit conservative when driving these, what tends to happen is the second turbo doesn't spool up and the airflow flap and the actuator can just clog up with soot and crap, and fixing that can cost a fortune. Now also, as I said, the steering should be light and predictable. If it's not, it could be a sign of worn suspension bushes. Also, in your test driving, make sure you give the brakes a little bit of a stab and listen out or feel for any like a clonk kind of feeling. If it's coming from the front, it might be the lower suspension arms, or if it's from the back, it might be the upper suspension arms, or maybe the anti-roll bar, both of which are going to cost money to fix. Now, remember before when I was mentioning about how the rear brakes can get clogged up with dirt and mud and muck? Make sure you check that the parking brake actually works, or if it screeches or makes any kind of grinding sound. If it doesn't work, and if it screeches or makes a grinding sound, just avoid that Discovery, because fixing that costs a fortune. Here in Australia, the pricing varies enormously. You'll be parting with as little as 20 grand for a base spec early model Disco, probably riddled with issues and problems, but you'll be parting with nearly $90,000 for a recent top spec HSE or Landmark edition. Now, this means that a 2016 top spec model has basically lost no value because they were around about $90,000 when new. But at the other end of the spectrum, like a 2009, 2010 Disco, it's lost $70,000 of value in how many years? 10 years? Yeah, in 10-ish years. Okay, go from there. Have lost around $70,000 in like 10 or 11 years. That's about $122 a week, not including the price of repairing everything that's probably going to go wrong. Land Rover have a claimed fuel usage of anywhere between 8.5 to 14.1 litres per 100 Ks, depending on variant and spec and drivetrain. And that'll also vary as well if you bolt a whole bunch of off-roading gear to it, or seeing how many designer label shopping bags you can fit in the boot. Land Rover offered a 3-year, 100,000 kilometre warranty on all new Discos, which means these are all well and truly out of warranty by now. And servicing is recommended at every 12 months or 26,000 kilometres. Now, if you are in the market for one of these things, make sure it has a full and thorough service history, because if things go wrong, or when things go wrong with these, it's going to cost an absolute fortune. So, should you buy one? This is a tough one. Look, we so want to say yes, because when these are working at 100%, they're spectacular. For what they do, they're nearly perfect. And like the owner of this particular one, there are thousands of owners of these out there that have never had a problem with them. But for us, the potential for things to go horribly wrong is just way too high. And as these age, the issues and problems will most likely get worse, and the cost of parts and labour to fix these potential issues is pretty insane. Plus, some of these are depreciating like crazy. So as much as we want to say yes, it's a no. And it's definitely a no if it's a 2.7 litre TD V6. These engines are getting really old. They're expensive to run, and look, they've got a habit of just going boom pretty regularly. Look, if you absolutely have to buy one, the one to get is the lowest kilometre, most recent, most mint condition 3 litre SD V6 that your budget will allow. And then go and put like $10,000 to $15,000 away in a fix the disco account and sit back and just pray like hell that nothing goes wrong. And you'll have yourself one hell of a four-wheel drive until it breaks. Thank you so much for watching, and hey, what did you think of the Disco? Let us know in the comments section below. And hey, can you hit those like, subscribe and bell icon buttons, and go and follow us on all the socials as well. See you next time.